Hi, friends. This is Dr. Arpita Gupta Dipalma, and you're listening to my podcast, From Pissed Off to Poised. This show is for busy women physicians and professionals just like you who are ready to take control of their emotions while learning how to excel in juggling all the things they are responsible for in life. It's for overextended mamas who are trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. It's for multitasking women who are tired of playing the role of the angry and resentful air traffic controller, who simply want to learn how to create a life that is more calm, intentional, and joyful for themselves. My goal is to help you learn how to eliminate the overwhelm and maintain your composure in high-stress situations that you face with the demands in your day-to-day life. Because I get you guys, this was totally me. You are not alone. I invite you to embark on your journey of transformation with me. Enjoy the listen. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. I am really honored and thankful to have one of my clients, Dr. Nicci Preston, on the show with us today because she has made some amazing transformations in her own life. And I'm going to really get into it a little bit more while we're diving into this episode. But what I want to start with is just her telling you a little bit about herself. So, Nicci, you've been an amazing human. And I've said this when we've talked multiple times that, oh my gosh, that sounds just like me. Like, this is how I used to be. And so it's always so fun for me to watch people have the transformation because I think a lot of times we just don't think it's going to be any different. But anyway, before we get into that, Nicci, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do and who you are and what defines you as an amazing human.
So I am an emergency medicine physician. I work full-time at critical access as well as a level 2 trauma center. And I am a mom to 2 kids, a 7-year-old girl and a 10-and-a-half-year-old boy. And I am married to my wonderful husband. I think that's pretty much what defines me.
If you could say one thing that truly you feel brings you joy in your life now as part of your definition of what you have to have in your life, what would that be?
My family. I think just spending quality time and enjoying my time with my family.
So good. I think that's what we all actually really want and strive for. And for me, I know personally that was part of when I recognized that something needed to change because obviously we're doing all of this just to have that time and that connection with those people. Yet we can't settle in. We just always feel like we're going. And so thank you again for being on. And I guess it would be great to start with maybe giving the audience a snapshot of what your life looked like before you discovered the things that I taught you with coaching and maybe what you're hearing on the podcast.
So working full-time in the ER is stressful, as anybody can imagine. I had kind of reached a point. I was working full-time at a level 2 trauma center, and I was extremely stressed, burnt out. It was extending over into my family, my personal life, and I had made the decision to move full-time to a critical access hospital. But even though I had more time, I still was feeling overworked, overstressed, not like I could ever relax. I was constantly go, having to get the endless list of things done. And so I still wasn't satisfied. I wasn't happy. I wasn't at peace. And I didn't feel like I had that connection with my family at home, even though I was home more. I just still was stressed and anxious, I would say.
What was it at home that you noticed? Like what was causing that stress or like you mentioned, the go. And obviously as an ER doc in the ER, that makes complete sense. But what did you notice at home specifically or in other areas other than work?
I think it was just little things at home making me upset and triggered, like the dishes not being done, the laundry not being done and put away, the house not being picked up, the kids not listening or having lots of power struggles with my kids. And then feeling like my husband wasn't supporting me in those things at home that I felt needed to be done. I think that was probably one of the biggest things that at home kind of was leading to my, frustration and dissatisfaction.
How long do you think life went on like this? Or how long has it been like this before you realized that something needed to change? And when was that moment that you realized something needed to change?
I don't know if it was a moment. I think it was always there because if I would yell at the kids, then I would feel guilty and upset with myself. And I can't tell you the number of parenting classes or parenting books I would take that would talk about, trying to change your perspective, change your mind. But I couldn't actually put it into practice and actually do it. And I went to the conference last May, and I think being there and listening to people's experience with life coaching, and that was when I was like, I think this is what I need. I think this is what will help me to make the changes that I've been wanting to make.
Sometimes it's, I think you notice that when you've maybe heard about things or you're aware of it, but you're like, I don't know if that's going to work, or just having a lot of skepticism around it, not necessarily knowing what it entails, that oftentimes holds us back. So I find it interesting because you said, that you had the parenting books and you took the classes, but you weren't able to actually implement what it was teaching you.
Yes.
Why do you think it was different and that you were able to do so once we started working together?
I think having someone to talk it through and work through those challenging scenarios, like to actually specifically apply it to the scenario that I was going through, whether it just be, the specific argument with my son that comes up all the time. So I think that really helped, because then I could also come back and talk about, how things went, how things played out, and what other adjustments I could make, versus it just being kind of a generic trying to apply it to your life yourself when you're reading about it.
Yeah. You said what other adjustments I could make. I know now you have a lot more awareness regarding, that a lot of this work is really within us and how we make some shifts. And so if you could think back to as you've evolved over this time frame, what are some of the tools, or maybe one of the most powerful tools that you found helped you make that shift once you started to implement it?
I think just the foundational principle of that, you essentially create your happiness in your mind. You also create a lot of the chaos that's going on in your mind. You get to choose how you want to perceive something. And you can choose to perceive it as, a threat to yourself, or you can choose to let it go in a way. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is the way I've just changed my perspective on how I look at things with my husband and my children, and even at work, just letting things go that are out of my control, that I don't need to get worked up or stressed about it, because there are too many things to count that are just out of my control. And so I think that's been the biggest change for me, is just changing the way I think about things.
Yeah. And I think this is where we definitely want to differentiate between like the toxic positivity, or just like saying, never mind, I'm not going to think about it, it's not going to matter, versus what we do instead when we are trying to shift that perspective. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Like how you were able to make those shifts without it being kind of like blowing smoke up your rear end, in a sense, because it's not going to work if you do that.
I specifically remember one of the things is when I work, I'm gone for 2 days essentially, and I would come home and there's dishes everywhere and the house is a mess. And that would immediately trigger me to be upset with my husband. And one of the things that we worked through was thinking about, instead of what he didn't do, everything that he did do while I was gone, and to be thankful for everything that he had done, like cooking dinner, getting the kids to practice, getting them to tutoring, everything that he contributed versus what he didn't do. That is probably one of the things. And I still do it now. I'm just not upset that the dishes aren't done. It's just, they're there and they'll get done when they get done. I'm trying to think of some other examples of things at work, rather than getting frustrated, just kind of being acceptance with like, this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I think that's a big statement I will make to myself all the time. This is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And then just being able to deal with it that way.
Yeah, that was a big one for me as well, because I think as humans, it's natural tendency for us to think of things as happening to us or attacks on us if they aren't going the way we want. And in reality, it's very unlikely that that's the case, but rather this is just the way things are happening. And now I get to decide how I want to perceive it and how I want to take it in and how I want to respond rather than react. And that's where that pause is super important. I think for you, what I remember most specifically is when we first started working was the amount of angst and internal strife you would have when it came to things not being put away at the home or things being out of order or the house being a mess or the chores and the tasks that you had to get done outside of work, and how you honestly did not feel like it was okay to rest until it was all done.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think your biggest area of transformation, probably, in my opinion, I could be completely wrong, but that's what I think.
I would agree. I always had this sense of when I came home, I needed the house completely put together, everything done. I wasn't able to kind of move on to the other tasks on the list until the house was done. And it was a gradual change for me, but it was, started with the things like the dishes and the laundry. And it might have just been more of a realizing that you're never going to get the list completely done. There's always going to be things that are out of place, and you just kind of have to come to that acceptance. I guess I would always feel like if I could just get it done, then I can relax. Then I can be at peace. Then I can enjoy my time with my family. But I think just coming to the realization that it will always be there. There will always be things to do. And if you don't take the time now to enjoy that time with your family, you're not going to always have it.
Yeah, that is so true and so powerful. And I think this is that arrival fallacy that we create for ourselves, that when I get all these things done or when I accomplish X, Y, and Z, then I can relax or enjoy myself or celebrate or spend some time with the kids and do what they're wanting to do, have been asking me to do. And the fact of the matter is that life will keep piling things on, and we have to intentionally build in that time to do the things that bring us joy, that allow us to rest, that allow us to spend time with our people and our humans that we love so much, because that will totally get cannibalized unless we make that a priority first. I think a big shift of it is just recognizing and having that awareness that, oh, I'm the one that's creating this urgency and this stress to get it all done. Nobody else is grading me or judging me and whatever to do it. And quite frankly, if they are, they're not my people. I don't need them in my world, right?
I would do the parenting books and I would talk about spending that quality time with your kids. But every time I was doing it, while I was doing it, I was thinking about what's the next thing on my list that I need to do when I'm done with this. And so even though I was taking the time and trying to spend it with them, I wasn't actually enjoying the time because my mind was just basically constantly circling on the next thing that needs to be done. And I think that was just a big shift for me, is changing the way I perceive the urgency of things and what truly does need to be done versus what, I want to be done.
Yeah. And we know how the brain works, right? It's going to go back to old patterns. And so now when you are spending that time with your kids or your family and it's that dedicated time with them, and you notice oh crap, Nicci, you got to do this still, you notice those start to trickle back in. How do you combat that? How do you kind of overcome that?
I would say that meditation has helped a lot to help keep me more focused. That wasn't something that I used to do a lot of, but now I've tried to make it more of a routine. And so it's kind of just like bringing your thought back to the present moment. Like, what am I doing now? I think that helps a lot. And then also just, it's kind of that thought of this is the way it's exactly supposed to be. What needs to be done will be done. It will get done. If it truly needs to be done, we will get it done.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very, very true, I think. Is there something like that I talked to you about or maybe offered to you to consider implementing in your life that you really, really resisted at first and then, surprisingly, maybe later found to be super helpful or powerful?
I would say the daily, like, what are you grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
Or your daily wins. Talking about those or thinking about those really helped with just like a mind shift to the more positivity, brushing your teeth and saying, in your head, what are my wins for the day? What am I thankful for today? It's a nice way to start your day when you're brushing your teeth and ending your day when you're brushing your teeth. So I think making that a habit was something. And then also journaling. That's not something that I had done, but it's really a nice way to just kind of like get all your thoughts out. So that way they're not circling around in there. You just get them out.
Yeah, all that chatter. And then I think one of the most powerful parts of that exercise is when you get them all out, then you can go back and even kind of notice how many of those sentences that you wrote are truly facts,
Mm-hmm.
and compare that to how many are just, again, the sentences, the chatter, the noise that your brain is offering that you don't have to take on. So it is so crazy for me to see how big of a difference it makes when you're in a negative spiral versus just a neutral or a positive spiral. And the fact of the matter is, our brain is always seeking all the negative crap in the world to quote, quote, keep us safe. But in actuality, it just impacts our mood in a way and creates the results of us being more in a negative space. And so when we are intentional about building in some pause and some time to look at really what is truly good in our life and how things have really been a gift in certain ways, it allows us to kind of shift that frame of mind a little bit to be in a better space. So
another thing was I would wake up in the middle of the night and constantly like, what do I need to get done? All the things that need to get done, and just constantly running through them. And the statement that was like, thank you, shitty brain, but I got this. Thanks for the reminder, but I got this. That has actually helped tremendously for me to be able to just shut it off and say, we'll get to it, and to kind of be able to just let it go.
yeah, I mean, I think it is important to infuse a little bit of humor in it, right? Because we recognize that we are not our thoughts. And so, the brain is offering that. And yeah, thank you, shitty brain, right now. I've already got this taken care of. And I think it makes you laugh a little bit, even when it's happening in the moment. And laughter always brings a little bit of relaxation and gets you back into more of that parasympathetic mode. So all of these little tools and how they impact you, even just with subtle differences, do make a difference for sure. Can you share any other real life moment where you used one of these tools or the tidbits and how it completely changed how things played out? Like, had you not had those tools, what it would have looked like before, and recognizing like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. It's so different.
I would say most of the examples are with my children. I was very reactive with them, very short-tempered, a lot of yelling. It didn't take a lot for them to trigger me to start yelling at them. And just now being able to take that pause and not engage with them in that moment. I think that's been a big thing for me, is just taking the time, pausing and walking away, stepping away. Or like, we'll talk about this later. That's been a big one for me with my son, especially because he likes to come at me. Not to say that I still don't have times and we still don't have to work through those issues, but that's been really big.
Yeah, I think that we just actually talked about this, right? That things will set us off again, even though we've been doing this work for some time, and we want to not beat ourselves up about that when it happens, or not, judge ourselves as not succeeding in the things that we have learned, but rather look at it as an opportunity for, why did this set me off this time, so that you can learn from it and grow even more. And I know for me personally, most of the time, if I have a setback, it's because I'm overstretched and tired, or I'm not feeling well. And so a lot of times it's all the factors in our life and our environment that are impacting us. And so even if we have just awareness in one specific area, it can help us navigate how we actually show up in the other areas. And so this was a great learning opportunity, I think, for you to say, okay, this is what happened. It was after some shifts, I think some intense shifts, right?
Yep.
And you were able to implement changes that would prevent that same scenario from activating you again in the future.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think it was super important that you said that, because we're not going to be perfect at this work. It is going to be a constant evolution and constant growth process. But I think also one of the differences that we've talked about is your ability, any of our abilities, to be willing to be vulnerable once we do have this type of rupture or reaction that we weren't really being intentional with. Do you want to talk about that at all? Have you noticed how you handled the repairs, or what's changed with you with regards to repairs?
I think a lot of it really is just the pause. And as long as you're not doing things in the heat of the moment, and then taking time later to acknowledge it and talk about it, and talk about the fact that with my son most recently, it was like apologizing for lashing out so much, or reacting so much, I guess I would say, to the things that he, triggered me with. And I think both my kids have recognized, and they acknowledge that, mommy, you don't yell as much anymore. And I think that we can connect more because of that.
Yeah. And I think even though you may not see it now, what you're modeling is behaviors that they are actually going to incorporate into their own selves. That's what I've noticed with my kids, even though it's not like teaching them this is what you need to do, but just modeling how we notice, that repair part is super important that, hey, I realized that I showed up this way and this is what was going on. And I apologize for doing that. Tell me what you were thinking now, or let's continue the conversation now. And that makes a huge repair and builds that connection with those people that we love the most.
Same with my husband, like having those conversations about like, what are you thinking? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And it's much better to have conversations when you're calm. It's that fight or flight mode. It doesn't work for anyone.
Right. Your prefrontal cortex is not online, so not the best time. So tell me, with regards to your leadership roles or just even your coworkers, have you noticed any changes or differences that have been really impactful for you or even for the people that you're with?
It's odd because at work, I'm able to stay very like calm and focused on what needs to be done. But I would say it's often when just feeling overwhelmed at work, which can happen frequently in the emergency room with the volume of patients. And it's just being able to just stay focused on the one, like, what am I doing at this moment that needs to be done, and being able to juggle. I think also I'm an emergency department director, so being able to have those conversations with people and not feel like if they, I don't want to say argue back or have like something else to say back, not feeling like it's an attack on me. You might internalize or take things personally when you're having those conversations, but I'm able to kind of not do that and let that go.
Yeah, that's super important. How do you like remove that emotional side? Because again, our brains are trying to protect us from anything that's coming at us. And so it's perceiving every possible interaction as the threat. Where is the threat here? So instead, can we step back and say, there is no threat, there is no danger? How can I receive what they're saying in a way that I can actually have a conversation back and forth that makes sense? So what would you say to someone who maybe has been listening to the podcast or, has been considering working with somebody as a coach to make changes in various aspects of their life, but they're kind of skeptical? Like maybe they have the thought that, that worked for them, but I don't think that's going to work for me, or whatever it might be. How would you talk to a friend or a colleague who is in that position?
I think so. Coaching for me, it was just something that kind of brought it all together, right? Like I have a lot of different aspects of my life that I felt I was trying to work on, right? Diet and exercise and trying to meditate, but really not being able to stick to it. And then reading the books and doing everything. But it just helps really bring it together and personalize it for you to make it work. I am so thankful that I found you and that we connected, because I think working with you, we are so much alike with our, how we were. So I think it's worth the investment. And that's the way that I had to look at it, was that like, oh, not like it's another expense, but this is an investment in me. This is an investment in my long-term happiness, satisfaction, my relationships with my husband and my children. And it was most definitely worth the investment.
Yes, definitely. I want to just echo that, yes, so thankful to meet you and to be around people who are open to considering, personal growth and development and other ways to do it, because that's the first step, is just having an awareness that something here needs to change and I want to change it. And now I got to figure out how to do it. And that's what allows you to make those changes, is having that open mind. Part of why I love doing this work is I love seeing women go from the before to the after when they don't think there's any way they can get to the after, and that's so powerful for me, and honestly why I keep doing it, because it's so much fun and so gratifying to see that change and to see these women be so much more happier.
Looking back, even just, a year ago, so this was been right before in May, and just looking at the difference in like my overall happiness, like being able to be thankful for everything that I have and not thinking about the things that we either don't have or the things that need to be done. Like I feel like that was a constant interference in my thoughts, was just what's next? What do I need to do? What, all the list.
Feeling so much lighter. right? Not having that weight, and you're still getting all the things done, and you're still accomplishing and meeting goals and setting new ones, and you don't have the weight to carry with all those.
Realizing that I created the chaos and the anxiety in my mind, because life is still the same. I still have the same things I need to do. I still get the same amount of things done, but I don't have that anxiety and like constant worry about doing it.
So good. So good, Nicci. Thank you so much for doing this and sharing your experience with my audience and all the people. Is there anything else you would like to share with them or say?
If you've been considering coaching, definitely do it. It's worth the investment in yourself and your long-term happiness.
Well, thank you. Yes, it changed my life. It's probably changed my entire family's lives. I know it has, and it's going to continue to trickle down and be passed on forward to all the other people who we get to interact with, who are open to hearing and seeing and learning and just being aware of it. So, all right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience again today. And I am looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, I'll see you soon.
All right, take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of From Pissed Off to Poised. Remember, transformation is a journey, not a destination. So enjoy the ride. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review From Pissed Off to Poised on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback supports my mission to get this podcast out to help other women physicians and professionals like you on their path to creating a more peaceful life with more intention and more joy. I enjoy reading every message I get with your input and feedback on my journey, so keep them coming. And if you have a friend who might enjoy the listen, please share this episode and show with them. Lastly, if you want to learn more about my coaching programs and course offerings, check out my website at www.thoughtworkmd.com. Feel free to reach out to me to learn more about investing in yourself through one-to-one coaching so you can start living the life you've always wanted. This show is for general educational and entertainment purposes only. Life coaching is not a substitute for therapy or medical treatment.